They slit my best friend's throat and came for me next. Suddenly, I was still holding his hand. His blood was warm. It sprayed on my face before I even realized what happened. 1 second, we were whispering, trying to stay quiet in the freezing dark, hiding behind a broken wall of a destroyed schoolhouse. The next second, they were there, 2 German soldiers with bayonets already stained red. One grabbed Eric from behind and held him tight. Eric tried to fight, but he was weak from hunger. He screamed my name once. Then came the sound, the wet, sharp slice. They cut his throat right in front of me. He fell over. His mouth moved, but no sound came. His eyes were open. I froze. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I couldn't even breathe. I just stared at the blood pooling near my boots. One of the soldiers turned to me, slowly, smiling, like a wolf who had eaten one rabbit and now spotted another. I couldn't move. My legs didn't work. He took 1 step, then another. I closed my eyes. But then, cliffhanger ends the peak intro here. Now the story starts from the beginning and leads up to this event. I wasn't supposed to be there. I was just a kid, 17, still had pimples on my chin. My name is Thomas, and before the war, I loved drawing cartoons and fixing bicycles. My dad was a baker. My mom made the best potato soup in the village. Life was slow, peaceful. We never locked our doors. We didn't have to, but then the war came. Planes flew over our homes, dropping thunder and fire. Tanks rolled through our farms. The village became silent. No laughter, no bread, just smoke and fear. That's when Eric and I decided to leave. We were neighbors, best friends since we were 6. We promised we'd always look out for each other. When the Nazis invaded, they took our fathers first. They lined them up and marched them out. We never saw them again. So we ran. We thought we could hide in the forest. Thought we could wait for the war to pass. But we were wrong. We lived like animals. Cold, hungry, scared. We stole food from abandoned houses. Slept in barns. Sometimes we'd hear dogs barking in the distance. Other times it was gunshots. Still, we made it through winter. One morning, we found a group of other runaways. Boys like us, some even younger. A man named Merrick led them. He said he used to be a teacher. Now, he taught us how to survive. Merrick showed us how to set traps for rabbits, how to read tracks in the mud. He made us sleep with our boots on, just in case. We called him Sir, even though he told us not to. We're not soldiers, Eric said once. No, Merrick replied. We're shadows. For weeks, we moved camp every few nights. We never lit fires. We whispered instead of speaking. We lived like ghosts. Then came the storm. It rained for 3 days straight. Our shelter collapsed. We were wet, shivering, and starving. Merrick said we needed to move closer to the town ruins. Risky, but he'd heard a rumor that supplies had been left behind in a school building that had been bombed weeks ago. That was the first time we disobeyed our rule. We split up. Merrick took half the group one way. Eric and I went the other, sneaking into the skeleton of the schoolhouse. There were still books scattered on the floor, chairs broken in corners, blackboards with half-finished lessons. We searched quietly, hoping to find food or medicine. What we found instead was the smell. Smoke, tobacco, fresh. Someone was here. We backed up slowly, but it was too late. The sound of boots, heavy ones, echoed down the hallway. Eric looked at me. We didn't speak. We just ran, found a half-fallen wall and crawled behind it, and waited. My heart pounded like a drum. Eric gripped my hand tightly. We held our breaths. Then we heard the voices. German. Close. Too close. I think they saw us, Eric whispered. No, I lied. We stayed hidden for what felt like forever. Maybe they passed. Maybe they didn't see us. Maybe. That's when I felt Eric tense up beside me. A soldier stepped through the opening. Bayonet out. He didn't speak. He just lunged. He grabbed Eric. I tried to pull him back, but the soldier was too fast. He yanked Eric up and dragged him to his knees. No, I shouted. The second soldier held a knife. I tried to stand, tried to scream, but all I did was watch. And then, they slit my best friend's throat. Blood splashed on me. I froze. Eric fell over. The world went quiet. Then the soldier turned to me and took a step forward. He took a step forward. The bayonet glinted in his hand. I could see Eric's blood dripping from it. My body screamed to me to run, but I couldn't. My knees were locked. my hands trembling. Bit, the soldier said softly, as if mocking me. It meant please in German, but there was nothing polite about it. His eyes were cold. I didn't wait to find out what came next. Something inside me snapped. I turned and bolted through a broken doorway, glass crunching under my boots. Behind me, I heard him shout, then gunfire. Bullets ripped through the air. One slammed into the wall near my head. Another hit a chair, sending with splinters flying past my face. I didn't look back. I jumped over a pile of rubble and dove into a collapsed hallway. My shoulder slammed against a beam, but I kept crawling. There was a narrow hole in the floor where the boards had rotted. I squeezed through it and dropped into the basement below, landing hard on my side. Darkness. The only light came from a tiny window near the ceiling. Dust floated in the air like fog. I pressed myself against the cold, damp wall and waited. The footsteps didn't come. Minutes passed, then more. Finally, silence. I was alone, but Eric was dead. I didn't cry. Not yet. My body was in too much shock. My mind couldn't understand what I had just seen. He was there, my best friend, the boy who shared his last crust of bread with me. Gone in seconds. And I had run. I curled up in that basement and waited for night. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. When the sun went down, I crawled out of the hole and moved through the shadows. I didn't go back for Eric's body. I couldn't. Not with the soldiers still nearby. That was the night something inside me changed. I wasn't just trying to survive anymore. I wanted to fight, but I couldn't do it alone. By sunrise, I found my way back to Marit's group. They were hiding in an old train yard a few miles east. When I told Merrick what happened, he didn't speak. He just looked at the boys around us and then nodded. "They're hunting now," he said. "We either scatter or we hit back." There was a pause. "We hit back," I said. Merrick looked surprised. "You sure?" I nodded. "They took Eric. They'll take more. We had no real weapons. A few knives. One pistol with only 4 bullets. But we had the map Merrick kept in his coat. It showed the paths the German patrols took near the ruins. Places where they stopped. Where they smoked. Where they got lazy. We can't kill all of them," I said. "But maybe we don't have to." Merrick agreed. That night, we set a trap. We waited near an old water tower, the one next to the fallen bridge. The Germans liked to stop there. It gave them a clear view of the town and an easy place to smoke. Merrick and I dug a shallow pit just off the path, covered it with sticks and leaves. Then we smeared rotting food nearby to draw animals and curious men. We waited all night. Nothing. Then, just before dawn, we heard them. Laughter. Boots. Metal clinking. 3 soldiers. 2 of them walked right past the trap. The third, he was slower, older, stopped to pick something from the ground. He stepped into the pit and fell. We pounced. It was fast, messy. I grabbed his legs. Merrick put the knife to his throat. The others covered his mouth. He kicked and fought, but he was alone. We didn't kill him. We tied him up and dragged him into the woods. For hours, we questioned him. His name was Franz. He spoke some Polish, enough for us to understand. He told us about the others, about how they were growing bored, tired, that they didn't believe any more people were hiding in the ruins, that they had started hunting for fun. That word stuck in my head. Fun. That's what they called killing Eric. We let Franz go, not because we forgave him, but because we wanted him to carry a message. "Tell your friends," Merrick said. "We're not ghosts anymore." Franz limped away into the trees. We knew they'd come looking for us after that, so we moved again, deeper into the hills. But the next day, they came. 2 trucks, 6 soldiers, dogs. They surrounded the train yard before we even knew they were near. We had seconds. "Scatter," Merrick yelled. I grabbed the smallest boy, Pavel, and we ran through a hole in the fence. Gunfire behind us. Screams. Then silence. We hid in a drainage pipe for hours. Muddy, wet, shaking. When night fell, we crept out and returned to the camp. It was empty. Ashes. 2 boys didn't make it. Merrick was gone. We never found his body. Pavel and I wandered for days. Lost. Hungry. Alone. Then we met the woman in the barn. She looked like a farmer's wife. Hair tied back. Wore boots and an old dress. But she had a rifle under her haystack and a scar down her cheek. She didn't speak much, but she fed us. Let us sleep. Then she pointed at the map on her table. "You want revenge?" she asked, her voice low and steady. I nodded. "Good," she said, "because tomorrow they'll be back, and we'll be ready." We were up before the sun. The woman, her name was Anya, walked us through everything. She moved like someone who'd been in war long before us. She showed us how to hold the rifle, how to aim without wasting bullets, and how to rig small traps with wire nails. Pavel was scared. His hands shook, but Anya didn't yell at him. She just put a hand on his shoulder and said, "You'll stop shaking once you've got something to fight for." Then she looked at me. "I can see it in your eyes. You already have." We hid in the hayloft. The plan was simple. Wait until the soldiers came to search the barn, then spring the traps and block the exits. The back door was rigged with a tripwire. The front would slam shut when triggered by a hidden rope system. We had one rifle, one Molotov, a few rocks. It wasn't much, but it was more than we'd had before. Just after noon, they came. 3 men, 1 dog. They didn't knock. They kicked the door in like they owned it. The dog barked, pulling on its leash, sniffing everything. Pavel and I held our breath. We were lying in the hay, covered in dust. Anya stood near the ladder like she was just a farmer who'd been feeding her animals. The dog barked louder. One soldier stepped closer to the ladder, and then, snap! The tripwire at the back door caught his foot. He tumbled, screaming, as metal scraps and broken glass poured down on him from a trap Anya had set above. The second soldier spun around just as she tossed the Molotov. It hit the wooden floor and exploded with a whoosh of orange fire. Flames roared. Smoke rose. The third soldier tried to run out the front, but the rope trap worked, the door slammed shut, and a plank dropped from above, hitting him square in the chest. He collapsed. Anya fired once. The dog yelped and ran. It was over in less than a minute. The fire spread fast. We had to jump from a loft window, landing in the cold mud behind the barn. Pavel was crying. I had a cut on my arm, but we were alive. Anya came last, limping slightly. Her dress was singed at the bottom. She looked at me. "No more hiding," she said. We buried the rifle under a tree near the barn ruins. Then we left. We couldn't stay there anymore. The soldiers would come again, and this time with more men. So we traveled at night. Anya said she knew a place, an old forest base from the early days of the resistance. Maybe someone was still there. Maybe not, but it was safer than wandering aimlessly. The first 2 nights were quiet. On the third, we found a body. It was fresh. A man, maybe 30, shot in the head, his hands tied behind his back. Anya stared at him for a long time. He was part of something, she said. "Look at the boots. Not army issue." She searched his coat and found a patch, faded and torn, but still readable. It had a white eagle on it. "A resistance cell," she whispered. "They're still out there." We buried him. That night, we didn't sleep. The next day, we followed tracks in the dirt. Deep, heavy ones. Anya guessed they belonged to a supply truck. She said the resistance sometimes raided Nazi convoys. We followed the path for hours. At one point, we had to cross a river. Pavel slipped and nearly drowned. I pulled him out, choking and soaked. He smiled afterward, though. Said it was the cleanest he'd been in months. By dusk, we reached the edge of the forest. Then we saw it. A fire. Not a burning building, but a campfire. Controlled. Small. Someone was nearby. Anya motioned for us to stay low. She moved forward like a ghost, her boots making no sound. Minutes later, she returned. "They're friendly," she said. We approached slowly. 5 men and 2 women sat around the fire, dressed in mismatched clothes. They looked tired but alert. One had a long scar across his nose. Another had no fingers on his left hand. They called themselves the Black Foxes. They had been fighting behind enemy lines for almost a year, blowing up train tracks, disrupting supply chains, saving who they could. They welcomed us. Even Pavel. We shared what we knew. The soldiers near the ruins. The schoolhouse. The barn trap. When I told them about Eric, the man with the scar, his name was Luca, put a hand on my shoulder and said, "You're one of us now." That night, we made a plan. The Nazis had a local command post in the town's old post office. Small group, no more than 10 men. But it was where they took anyone they caught. Tortured them. Executed them. Anya looked at me. "This is your chance," she said. "Revenge." I asked, No, she replied. Justice. The next day we moved out. Quiet. Steady. Each of us had a role. Pavel was the lookout. Anya and I would slip in through the back while the others created a distraction. It went smoothly at first. Luka tossed a smoke bomb near the front steps. Shouting followed. The soldiers ran out in confusion. Anya and I crept in. The halls smelled of blood. We passed a room with chains hanging from the ceiling. Another had a pile of blood-stained rags in the corner. Then we heard a voice, a scream, coming from the lower floor. Someone was still alive. Anya signaled for me to stay back. She crept toward the stairwell, rifle raised. I took a step to follow her. Then, bang, a door behind me slammed open. A soldier, one I recognized. The same one who had slit Eric's throat. He locked eyes with me, smiled, raised his gun. I didn't think. I just lunged. The shot went off. It missed barely. The sound rang in my ears as I slammed into him, both of us crashing to the cold stone floor. The gun skidded away. My fists flew without control. I hit him again and again, shouting Eric's name, blood pounding in my head like a drum. But he was stronger. He grabbed my throat, rolled me over, and pressed down hard. My vision blurred. His eyes were wide, mad, like he remembered me too. Little rat, he hissed in German. Should have died with your friend. My fingers scraped along the ground. I reached blindly, glass would anything. Then I found it, a jagged metal shard from a broken chair. I stabbed upward. Once. Twice. He screamed. I didn't stop. When it was over, I was covered in blood. His this time. My chest heaved. My hand shook. My throat burned where he'd try to crush it. Anya appeared seconds later. Her eyes darted between me and the body. You okay? She asked. I nodded, barely. We found the prisoner, she added. Downstairs. He's hurt but alive. Can you move? I got on my feet slowly. My legs felt like sticks. My ears still rang. But I nodded again. We followed her down into the basement. There, tied to a chair, was a boy no older than me. His face was bruised, one eye swollen shut. But when he saw us, he managed a small smile. You're not Germans, he said. Anya cut his ropes. He coughed and groaned as he stood. Name's Miko, he muttered. I was with the Krakow cell. They caught us 2 weeks ago. I'm the last one. I helped him up the stairs while Anya covered us. Outside, Luka and the others had already neutralized the rest of the soldiers. The command post was silent now. Only the smoke from the earlier distraction drifted into the sky. We didn't stay. We knew they'd come to investigate the silence. We had to move fast. That night, we camped in the forest again. No fire, just darkness and breathing. I couldn't sleep. The image of Eric's death haunted me more now, even though his killer was gone. I kept thinking, was it enough? Did revenge fix anything? Or did it just leave a bigger hole inside? In the middle of the night, Anya sat beside me. She handed me a can of cold beans. Not fancy, but better than the roots and bark we usually had. You did what you had to, she said quietly. I didn't answer. She looked out at the trees. You know, before all this, I had a husband, a baby. The soldiers took them both. Said my husband was hiding weapons. He wasn't. He was a carpenter. What happened? I asked. They burned them alive in our house. I turned to her, shocked. She didn't cry. Her voice didn't shake, but her hands gripped her knees tightly. I thought killing them would make it better, she continued. And I've killed many. But some nights it still feels empty. I nodded. So what do we do? She finally looked at me. We survive. We fight. Not just for revenge, but so one day this war ends and kids like you don't have to fight anymore. The next day, we moved again. Miko led us toward a hidden resistance tunnel, an old mining shaft once used to smuggle people out of Krakow. If it still worked, it could lead us to a bigger camp, a place with real weapons, real support, but getting there wouldn't be easy. The roads were being watched now. After the attack on the post office, the Nazis would be hunting. Checkpoints were everywhere. Trucks, dogs, soldiers with itchy fingers. We traveled only by night, through the woods, over frozen streams, past abandoned farms. On the third night, we reached a field. It looked quiet, too quiet. Miko raised his hand. Wait, he whispered. That's when I heard it. A soft click, then a beep. I looked down. My boot had pressed a hidden mine. No one move, Miko said. Everyone froze. The mine wasn't big, an anti-personnel one. Enough to tear off a leg. Enough to kill if you panicked. My heart stopped. My foot stayed still. I didn't even breathe. Okay, Miko said. Lift slowly, 1 inch at a time. I did. The beeping stopped. Now step back. Slowly. I moved. Nothing happened. Then we all exhaled at once. Miko disarmed the mine carefully, using a knife and wire. That night, we slept without speaking. We were close now, just 1 day from the shaft. But the forest wasn't done testing us. At dawn, we found the bodies. 3 villagers, hung from tree. A sign nailed into the trunk read, "This is what happens to traitors." Anya pulled the sign off and threw it in the mud. "We keep moving," she said. We reached the entrance to the mine by dusk. It was hidden under an old wagon, covered in vines. Anya cleared it. Miko unlocked the metal hatch. We stepped inside. Darkness swallowed us. The tunnel was damp, long, and silent. We walked single file. Each step echoed. Pavel gripped my coat tightly. Then suddenly, a whisper ahead. Footsteps. Not ours. Then, a voice shouted, "Licht AUS. Hand hoch. Lights off. Hands up." A flashlight beam blinded us. We were not alone. The flashlight blinded us. We froze. "Don't move," the voice barked again. It was deep, sharp, full of authority. I raised my hand slowly, heart pounding in my chest. Anya did the same. Miko whispered something in Polish, barely loud enough to hear. Pavel was trembling beside me. Then more footsteps. More lights. They surrounded us. 4 of them. Maybe 5. All armed. All with their guns aimed at our chests. One of them stepped forward. He wore a faded coat, boots caked in mud, and a long rifle strapped across his back. He looked about 30. His face was hard, tired, but alert. Then, something strange happened. He lowered his gun. "Miko," he said, eyes narrowing. Miko stepped forward, blinking in the light. "Tomasz." The man dropped his weapon and ran to him. They embraced, tight, desperate, like brothers torn apart by war and thrown back together by luck. "They told me you were dead," the man whispered. "They told me the same," Miko replied, tears in his eyes. Tomasz turned to the rest of us. "They're with me," Miko said. The soldiers lowered their guns. For the first time in a long while, we could breathe. We followed them deeper into the mine. It wasn't just a tunnel. It was a base. There were lanterns strung up, crates of food, a makeshift infirmary, and even a shortwave radio. Men and women moved quietly but quickly, all dressed like ghosts of the old world. Coats patched together, boots with mismatched laces, eyes full of stories they never told. Tomasz led us into a room where maps covered the walls. Pins marked enemy convoys, communication lines, fuel depots. He pointed to one near Krakow. "This is our next target," he said. "A supply train. Ammo, weapons, fuel. If we can stop it." Anya nodded. "We can shift the war." But I wasn't thinking about maps. I was thinking about Eric. I stepped outside the room and found a quiet corner. Sat there, back against the wall. It all came rushing back. His face, his scream, the blood. I put my head in my hands. A few minutes later, Pavel sat beside me. "You think he'd be proud of you?" he asked softly. I didn't know how to answer. "He would," Pavel added. "You didn't run. You survived. You fought back." That night, we stayed in the mine. Warm food, blankets, even music from an old gramophone someone had scavenged from a ruined village. But no one smiled for long. We knew what came next. War. The next morning, we began planning. The train was scheduled to pass through a narrow valley in 2 days. Perfect spot for an ambush. The plan was simple. Step 1, blow the tracks. Step 2, take whatever we could. Step 3, disappear before reinforcements arrived. Anya and I volunteered for the demolition team. Miko and Tomasz would cover from above. Pavel, despite his size, insisted on carrying supplies. We left that night. The march to the valley took hours. We moved under cover of darkness, avoiding patrols, skirting frozen lakes, and crawling through thorny brush. We reached the cliffs by dawn. The valley below was empty for now, just rails, trees, and fog. We hid in the rocks and waited. Around noon, the ground began to shake. The train was coming. A long line of steel, black smoke billowing from its engine, crawled into view. It wasn't a passenger train. This one had metal crates, tank fuel, and armed guards riding on the rear platforms. We stayed quiet. Anya pulled out the wires. I helped her plant the charges beneath the rails. "Not yet," she whispered. The train drew closer. 50 meters. 20. 10. Now. Anya pressed the trigger. Boom. The rails exploded. The train lurched, screamed, and derailed. Metal screeched as cars flipped sideways. Flames burst from the fuel tanks. Screams echoed through the valley. Then chaos. Guards scrambled out, firing blindly. That's when Miko and Tomasz opened fire from above. Their shots were clean, quick. Anya and I sprinted down the slope. One of the guards spotted us. He fired. A bullet grazed Anya's arm. She fell. I dragged her behind a crate, firing back with the pistol I had taken from the command post. Pavel came running, his small body barely visible behind the smoke. He was carrying more explosives. "Where do I plant them?" he shouted. I pointed toward the fuel car. He nodded and ran. A soldier tried to intercept him, but Pavel was fast. He slid beneath a broken pipe and disappeared behind the wreckage. Then, another blast. The fuel car erupted into fire. Smoke turned the sky black. We pulled Anya to safety. Her arm was bleeding, but she was alive. When the shooting finally stopped, the valley was silent. The train was destroyed. The supplies were ours. But Pavel, he wasn't with us. We searched the wreck, called his name. Then finally, from behind a flipped crate, we heard coughing. We found him lying in the dirt, clothes singed, hair full of soot. He was smiling. "I did it," he said weakly. We carried him back up the hill, back to the others. That night, the mine base roared with quiet celebration. No loud cheers, just firm handshakes, warm soup, nods of respect. Tomasz placed a medal on Pavel's coat, an old resistance badge. "He's one of us now," he said. We had won a battle, but the war still raged on, and as we sat by the dim lantern light, someone came running into the cave, face pale, gasping for air. "They found us," he said. Everyone froze. "Soldiers, trucks, dogs, they're coming." Now, silence hit the room like a hammer. "They're outside," the scout repeated, sweat dripping down his face. Maybe 20, maybe more. Full unit. Tomasz didn't waste a second. Grab everything. No lights. Everyone move. The underground base exploded into motion. Lanterns were snuffed out. Boots stomped. Crates were closed. Weapons picked up. I grabbed Pavel's hand, still shaky from his injury the day before. "We have to go," I whispered. Anya tied a cloth tightly around her wounded arm and slung her rifle over her back. "This tunnel has 3 exits," Tomasz said as we gathered. "They'll expect the main one. We use the side shafts." We split up into 2 groups. Regroup at the pine clearing in 2 days. He pointed to Anya. "You lead the second group. Take the boy, the supplies, and Miko." Anya nodded. "What about you?" I asked. "I'll take the others and buy you time," he said. I didn't like it, but I didn't argue, because we didn't have time. We split. Anya led us through the narrower shaft, so tight we had to crouch for long stretches. It was damp, silent, and smelled like old soil and mold. Only the sound of breathing and shuffling feet echoed around us. Behind us, the first explosion hit. The mine shook. Dust rained from the ceiling. Somewhere far behind, someone screamed. "Keep moving." Anya barked. We pushed on, crawled when we had to, walked when we could. My legs ached. My back burned. But the thought of Eric, of Pavel's bravery, of what we'd already survived, it kept me moving. Then we heard it, barking, from ahead. Not behind. "Dogs," Miko whispered, pulling out his pistol. "No," Anya said. "Too risky. This way." She grabbed a rusted pipe and twisted it open, revealing a vertical tunnel barely wider than our bodies. "A drainage shaft," she said. "It leads to the forest edge." One by one we climbed. I went last. As I climbed, my fingers slipped on the wet metal. I gritted my teeth and pushed higher. Just as I neared the top, a beam of light shot down for the tunnel behind me. Voices. They were here. I shoved the hatch open. Daylight blinded me. Pavel and Miko reached down and pulled me up just as bullets ripped through the bottom of the shaft. We ran through the forest. Branches slapped my face. My lungs burned. But we didn't stop. Behind us, dogs barked. Gunfire popped. But the trees grew thicker. The path turned to marsh. We kept running. Finally, silence. Only the wind. We collapsed behind a hill of moss-covered stones. Anya listened carefully, then nodded. We lost them. We lay in the grass, catching our breath. I turned to Pavel. You okay? He nodded, face pale. I don't want to do that again. Miko laughed, the first time I'd heard him laugh at all. We waited until nightfall, then moved, carefully, quietly, following landmarks Anya remembered from years ago. An old well, a tree shaped like a hook, the rock that looked like a broken crown. Then we found a pine clearing. Empty. For now. We wait, Anya said. We made a small shelter from sticks and leaves. No fire, just cold hands and warmer thoughts. By the second night, the first group arrived. Not all of them. Tomasz wasn't with them. He stayed behind, one of them said, held the rear. Let us escape. He might still be out there, Anya said, but her voice didn't sound hopeful. The next morning, we set out again. Not just to survive now, to fight. We were building something. A movement. More than a few kids with stolen pistols. We were part of something real. A resistance. We moved from village to village, spreading news, recruiting survivors. I saw things I never imagined. Children younger than Pavel planting bombs beneath Nazi vehicles. Grandmothers hiding grenades in bread baskets. Farmers smuggling maps across borders stitched into their clothes. But every win came with pain. One village we visited had been burned. No survivors. Only ashes and empty shoes. Still, we moved forward. Then one night, while camped in a hollow cave near the mountains, we heard rustling outside. I grabbed my rifle. Miko stepped forward. Then, from the shadows, a figure limped into the light. Coat torn, face bruised. Tomasz. He collapsed. We rushed to him. Are you real? Pavel whispered. Tomasz grinned. Real enough. He had escaped. Alone. Crawled for miles. Hid in sewers. Survived on rats and rainwater. When he saw us, he wept. I thought you were gone, he said. Anya didn't cry, but she sat beside him all night. We let him rest. The next morning, he called a meeting. We hit their communications next, he said, pointing at a map. A relay station east of here. Cut that line, and we shut down their patrols for weeks. It would be dangerous, heavily guarded. But I had Pavel raise his hand. I want to go. Anya looked at him. You sure? He nodded. They tried to kill me twice. I want to return the favor. We left that night. Snuck into the hills. Used the fog for cover. We split into two teams again. One would draw the guards away. The other would plant the charges. I was with the second team. We crawled under barbed wire. Avoided spotlights. Reached the tower base. But just as we were placing the explosives, a flare lit up the sky. We'd been spotted. Gunfire erupted. Run, someone shouted. I turned. A bullet hit the ground beside me. Another zipped past my ear. Then, I heard a scream. Not mine. Pavel's. I turned around. He was lying on the ground. Not moving. Pavel. I didn't care about the bullets. I ran to him. My boots slipped on gravel. My heart pounded like a drum in my chest. He was lying face down, arms stretched out. I dropped to my knees and turned him over. His eyes were open. His lips moved. He was still alive. Where? I asked, panicked. My leg, he whispered. They got my leg. Blood was pouring from his thigh. A bad hit just above the knee. I ripped off my coat and tied it tight around his leg, high up to stop the bleeding. My hand was shaking so badly I could hardly make the knot. Gunfire cracked all around us. We need cover, I shouted. Miko crawled over, grabbed one of Pavel's arms, and I grabbed the other. Together, we dragged him behind a metal crate near the tower base. The explosions from the first team were now lighting up the sky. The guards were shouting in German, confused, scared, scattered. Anya's distraction had worked. But we had a new problem. We're pinned, Miko said, ducking down as bullets slammed into the crate. We can't move him fast like this. I looked down at Pavel. He was biting his lip so hard it bled. Then I heard it. The faint beeping. One of the bombs we planted. It was active. 60 seconds. Listen to me, I said to Miko. We don't make it out of here unless someone draws their fire. No, he said. We stay together. I shook my head. We both die if we do. But if I run left, just for 10 seconds, it'll give you enough time to drag Pavel to the tunnel. He grabbed my arm. Thomas, don't. I smiled. Tell the others I had a good run. Before he could stop me, I stood and ran. I bolted left across the open yard, screaming, waving my arms. The Germans fired instantly. Bullets chased me, some too close. One grazed my side, hot and sharp. But I kept running, darting behind debris, shouting louder to keep their eyes on me. Then, boom, the explosives went off. The entire relay tower shuddered, sparks bursting from the top. The explosion lit up the whole hill, tearing through the lower floor and knocking down the guard tower. The Germans panicked. I used the chaos to slide under a wall and rejoin the others. Miko had done it. He got Pavel into the escape tunnel. I collapsed beside them, panting, blood dripping from my side. We need to move, Anya said. Now, we carried Pavel through the tunnel and out into the woods. It took hours to reach the backup shelter. By then, we were covered in dirt and blood. But we were alive, and the relay station was gone. Tomasz met us at the entrance. When he saw Pavel, he helped us carry him inside. Medic, he called. Now, a woman in a white scarf appeared and got to work. She cleaned the wound, stitched the gash, and gave him something for the pain. He'll live, she finally said, but he'll never run again. Pavel smiled weakly. That's fine. I hate running. We all laughed. But it was the kind of laugh you only hear from people who've seen death, and said, not today. That night, I sat alone outside. The moon was full, the sky clear. I thought about Eric, about the train, the mine, the ambushes. The boy who used to play soccer with me in the village square was long gone. So was the kid who fixed bikes and drew cartoons. Now, I was someone else, someone harder, someone with scars. Anya sat beside me. You did good, she said softly. Almost got us killed. You also saved us. I didn't answer. You still dream about it? She asked. Every night. She nodded. Me too. I looked at her. How do we stop the dreams? She thought for a long moment. Maybe we don't, she said. Maybe we just live anyway. That's how we win. The next morning, Tomasz gathered us. He had news. Berlin's falling, he said. The Russians are closing in. The Americans too. The war is almost over. Miko stood up. What does that mean for us? Tomasz spread a new map on the table. It means they're desperate now. They'll lash out. Hit harder. We need to free the last camp before they wipe it out. He pointed to a red dot. A prisoner camp. North. Remote. Guarded. Our mission, liberated. Lots of people there, he said. Women. Children. Resistance fighters. If we don't go now, he didn't finish. He didn't have to. We packed light, just what we could carry. Anya led the team again. Miko had recovered enough to move. Pavel would stay behind, his leg too weak. I'll be waiting, he said with a grin. We marched for 2 days. The snow returned. Cold, thick, and silent. On the second night, we saw it. The camp. Barbed wire. Watchtowers. Guards with rifles. A generator hum that buzzed like an angry wasp. Tomasz whispered the plan. Split into 3 teams. 1 to create a diversion. 1 to disable the power. 1 to open the main gate. I was on the gate team. Again, I didn't argue. When the signal came, we moved like shadows. The power cut first, lights blinked out, and shouts echoed. Then the explosion from the south wall, Anya's work. We reached the gate and found 2 guards. They raised their rifles. But we were faster. We shot both. Quick, silent. Then, we opened the gate. Prisoners began to pour out, limping, crawling, dragging others. Some too weak to walk. Others with hollow eyes and paper-thin skin. We helped who we could. Then, gunfire. For the east tower. They had reinforcements. A bullet hit the dirt near my foot. I dove. Then I saw him. A child. Alone. Standing in the open. Frozen in fear. And a soldier. Rifle raised. Aiming at him. I didn't think. I jumped forward, screaming. The soldier's rifle fired. Once. The sound rang through the night like a crack of thunder. But I'd already reached the boy. I grabbed him and rolled us both into the dirt just as the bullet ripped past. It struck the ground where he had been standing. Dirt exploded around us. The child clung to me, trembling. Another shot rang out, but this one wasn't from the guard. Anya's rifle. The soldier dropped from the tower, his body hitting the wire fence with a thud. Silence fell again. Then cries. Not of pain, but of relief. Dozens of prisoners, maybe over 100, were free. Some dropped to their knees and kissed the ground. Others wept. Some didn't react at all. They were too broken, too far gone, but they were alive. I held the boy close. "You're okay," I whispered. "You're okay now." Tomasz found us moments later. His face, always stone-hard, had softened. "We did it," he said quietly. "We really did it. But we had to move. We couldn't stay. German reinforcements would come. We helped the prisoners walk, carried those too weak, and vanished into the trees before the sun rose. That march was the longest of my life. The boy wouldn't let go of my hand. He didn't speak, not once. Just held on tight. Anya carried a girl who couldn't walk. Miko helped an old man who had frostbitten toes. Tomasz took point, leading us through paths only the forest knew. We reached the safe zone by the third day. Exhausted, frozen, but victorious. Pavel was waiting. He limped out from the shelter on crutches, and when he saw me, his eyes filled with tears. "You came back," he said. I smiled. "Didn't I say I would?" He hugged me tight, not caring that I smelled like fire and blood. Tomasz stood before the survivors and raised his hand. "You are free," he said, "and as long as we breathe, you'll never be alone again." The days that followed were quiet, too quiet, like the world itself was holding its breath. Then one morning, the radio crackled. Miko turned up the volume. The voice came through, crisp, tired, full of disbelief. "The war is over. Germany has surrendered." No one moved. We all just stared. Then Anya smiled. She laughed, and for the first time in years, the sound didn't feel strange. We buried our weapons that night. Not in shame, but in peace. Because we no longer needed them. The boy who clung to my hand, his name was Marek, I later found out, grew up to become a teacher. Pavel walked again, slowly but proudly. Miko became a leader in the new world. Tomasz, he finally slept through the night. And Anya? She opened a bakery. Because, as she said, if we can teach people to fight, we can teach them to love bread again. As for me, I went back to my village, to the broken square, to the empty house. I planted a tree where Eric and I used to play. A tall one, strong. It grows there still. I visit it every year, not to remember the war, but to remember the promise that even when they slit my best friend's throat, even when they came for me next, even when the world burned, we stood, we fought, we survived, and we lived.